In tonight's episode of All the Gory Details, we find out that Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and also that Hell can give you a saucy makeover and super tentacle powers in as little as 45 minutes. Yep, it's Hellraiser's 1988 sequel, Hellbound. Welcome back to All the Gory Details. I'm your host, the Thor of Gore, Kieran Odinson. And in this episode, your favourite 80s man-eating diva has returned. The Alexis Carrington of horror, Julia Cotton, in Hellraiser 2 Hellbound. So if you haven't seen this movie, spoiler alert, watch it first and come back for some hell-raising fun times. Hellbound was directed by Tony Randall, with Clive Barker moving to the producer's chair. We start the movie where we discover Pinhead was once a human, who fell prey to the Lament configuration, which consumed him and turned him into the pain demon we all know and love. We then pick up immediately after the events of the first Hellraiser, where Kirsty has been sent to Dr. Chenard's home for the wayward nutjobs, but not before someone thought to give her some bangs. She sees visions of someone who she thinks is her father, pleading for help from Hell. Unsurprisingly, the cops don't believe a Cenobite story, so she's committed to Dr. Chenard's care, along with his assistant, who's played by Lieutenant Gorman from Aliens. We find out that Dr. Chenard knows all about Pinhead, and has turned his IKEA-filled pad into a shrine to the puzzle box. Dr. Chenard somehow gets a hold of the mattress that Julia died on, and convinces one of his crazies to get freaky with a razor blade on it, which gives Julia enough blood to resurrect herself, feeding on our methy razor friend as Gorman watches from behind a curtain. Chenard puts one of his white suits on Julia, giving her a look not unlike a cross between Grace Jones and a maxi pad. And after bandaging her up and putting a nice frock on her, the two of them start to get a little bit frisky, which doesn't seem like the most sanitary thing to do when your entire body is an open wound. Doc starts supplying Julia with a string of crazy ladies for her to feast on. Tits! And she regenerates into a former glory, albeit now with an awesome new hairdo. Seriously, she's been in hell for like 2 days, and look at that horror! Meanwhile, Gorman busts Kirsty out of Bedlam after he's seen that she isn't crazy, and the two of them return to Chenard's place, where Kirsty checks out Chenard's collection, taking a photo of Pinhead's human self, and Gorman discovers Julia's crazy lady snack pantry. Julia finds him and tries to get all sexy with him. Here's a hint, Gorman. If a pretty lady is perfectly calm in a room full of dead chicks and wants to get freaky with you there, maybe something's up with that. Turns out there was. Kirsty finds Gorman's corpse in the lady pantry, and Julia confronts her.
They changed the rules of the fairy tale. I'm no longer just the wicked stepmother. Now I'm the evil queen. So come on, take your best shot, Snow White.
Yes, I told you she was a friggin' Disney villain. Work. Meanwhile, Chenard gives the box to Tiffany, a catatonic girl with a knack for puzzles, who solves it, tearing the office asunder. Damn it, Tiffany, this is why we can't have nice things. And our favourite demon Avengers walk in to take Tiffany, until Pinhead makes his grand entrance like he's some demonic Dolly Levi, announcing that it wasn't Tiffany who designed to open the box, but Chenard. Julia takes Chenard on a guided tour of the Cenobite's labyrinth, which is a form of hell, ruled over by a giant pointy silver butt plug named Leviathan, who takes Chenard, capturing him with a big old toothy dick tentacle, and tests his gag reflex for all eternity. Fun fact, the horns that sound out as Leviathan shines his beacons actually spells out God in Morse code. Meanwhile, Kirsty happens upon Uncle Frank, who is looking mighty fine for someone who's been in hell all this time, and he seems to be dabbling in a bit of drag in his spare time too. Remember Frankie, ladies pinch, whores use rouge. Frank reveals that it was him who called to her, and before he can get busy with Kirsty, she sets his place on fire and he peels off his pretty face for some reason. Julia busts up the party, and just as it looks like her and Skella Frank are heading for a snog, she rips his heart out through his ribcage in revenge for killing her.
Nothing personal, babe.
Kirsty and Tiffany get caught in the labyrinth's wind tunnel, and Kirsty pulls Julia into the vortex, and Julia's skin splits open and Skella Jules is swept to her death, leaving behind her skin and a frock. Meanwhile, Chenard has emerged from his magic hellbox, having been turned into a Cenobite himself, with the Leviathan's big toothy penis tentacle chomping into the back of his skull. Kirsty and Tiffany escape back to the hospital, and Chenardabite bursts in like a weird kinky Peter Pan. You know, if Peter Pan was flown around by a giant toothy dildo. The girls run into the waiting arms of the other Cenobites, and Kirsty gives Pinhead the photo of his former self, causing the Cenobites to remember their human lives. Shenanabite attacks, shooting his tentacle slingers at the other Cenobites, pow, right in the neck badge, killing them, reverting them to their human forms. Tiffany realises that in order to stop Shenard, they have to go back to hell to close the puzzle box. Shenanabite appears, but before he can kill old Tiff, Julia returns, distracting him long enough with a big old face suck so that Tiffany can solve the puzzle box. Leviathan's cocticle tears the Doctor's head off, and Tiff falls off the edge of the abyss. Julia helps her back up, peeling her face off, revealing that it was actually Kirsty dressed in Julia's skin the whole time, saving the day. The girls escape from the labyrinth and check out of the hospital, leaving their ordeal behind them. Meanwhile, back at Shenard's pad, the mattress eats one of the removalists, causing a giant pillar to rise from the floor with the faces of Pinhead, Julia, and our favourite crazy vagrant dragon man from the first film. Hellbound is very much a companion piece to the original Hellraiser, and it's probably the best out of all the sequels. However, it doesn't quite match it in quality, and it's filled with various plot holes. Like, why does Shenard get turned into a Cenobite with all these super cool tentacle powers after spending about 45 minutes in the chokey? And why do Kirsty and Tiffany emerge from the labyrinth in the hospital where they entered through Shenard's house? The third act also feels confused, as a lot was removed, including a scene where the Cenobites dress up as surgeons, and a scene in a lift where the Chatterer sporting some brand new eyeballs. Andrew Robinson refused to reprise his role as Larry, which was a contributing factor to the jumbled plot, and Shenard as a big bad also seems hokey, especially after the well-crafted villainry of the first film. The return of most of the cast and crew from the original movie is a welcome feature, and this flick is very much Claire Higgins' film. Reprising her role as Julia for the second and final time, she's easily the most engaging character in the movie, and once she achieves her revenge against Frank, you can see the glee in her eyes. I feel more could have been done with Frank and Julia, seeing as their chemistry was a big part of what made the first movie so memorable, and the Shenard plotline really could have been thinned out a little. All up, Hellbound is a flawed yet enjoyable follow-up to Hellraiser that brings back many of your favourite parts from the first, yet it suffers from some clumsy scripting that really could have been improved with a bit more TLC. Well, we're taking a break from Hellraiser next episode, but we will be back with some of the other sequels, although I'm afraid the quality does somewhat go downhill from here. For my look at the first Hellraiser movie, click here. And to subscribe to all the gory details, click here. If you have any suggestions, feel free to list them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, Gore Whores. See you next time.